What happened? Oh. Try it again. I don't know why it's not playing. Starting in 3 minutes. All right. Whoo, the crazy train stopping. Woo-hoo. Enjoyed that one a little bit, didn't we? Let me turn off my phones here. Well, I'm going to leave this one on a little bit because I do have this one up. For anybody who's on YouTube, and even if this is no longer like live and you're still watching it on YouTube, you can still text me questions, and that's fine. And I will get to them as quickly as I possibly can. Welcome. Welcome to Live at 5 every Thursday, Most Things Hypnosis. My name is ILAH Brock, and I am your host, and I appreciate you being here. Or I appreciate those of you that view it later. Great, and then thank you so much for your patronage. And let me know if you have any topics you'd like me to investigate. I always start my show with a little bit of what I call, but first, before I get to the show, I am going to be talking about jumping to conclusions. And I'm going to talk about SODA, SODA. What does that mean? And I'm going to share something I discovered this week. And if those of you that graduated from HMI, I've already given a little bit of a clue. So we'll get to that in a minute. But I heard somebody say this, or I read this. recently, and I thought this was kind of profound. So this is my but first segment. Brain, personifying the brain. Brain is wired to look for negative. It's a self-defense, defensive protection mechanism, but we look for the negative. And I don't remember if I did this last week or not. Well, you get double whammy if I did. So, for example, let's say you're driving along the highway with the top down, you're going 80 miles an hour down PCH, you have the ocean on one side and the mountains on the other, you're just loving it. And it's a beautiful sunset, right? And you're just like, what a beautiful sunset. I know to go 80 miles on PCH would be impossible, but just imagine, because I'm a hypnotist and I work with imagination. So we're going to imagine it. So just imagine it. And so you just think it's a beautiful sunset. Now, alternatively, you're just cruising along at 80 miles an hour, right? But what if you were going 80 miles an hour and you came up to a horrid train wreck? You are going to stop and slow down and look at it. Everybody does, because that's the negative. And we tend to go towards things that are negative. That's just where our brain attracts to. And the reason it's looking for, is this going to hurt me? Am I going to get hurt? Is there any danger for me? And it's that safety protective mechanism. It's unlikely, not saying it's impossible, but if you come up upon an accident and let's say you've got, the police or the high patrol, people directing traffic, they're also looking out for everyone. Not that we think they are, but I do believe that they're looking out for everyone's well-being, so it doesn't get any worse than what it was, right? And I've seen some pretty gnarly stuff, and I'm sure everybody can attest to that. So know that the brain is wired to look for the negative. And as a hypnotherapist, our job, our work on ourselves, if nothing else, is to help people not look for so much negative, not to learn to be in the positive. And can we be positive 100% of the time? I don't know that that's possible. I try to believe that I am in my positive all the time. I don't know if it's 100%, but it's all the time. And I do whatever I can to switch things around to from negative to positive. And it is a practice. Sorry, something suddenly just scratched my nose. Okay, so the focus should be, instead of on the negative, the focus should be, instead of what will hurt me, let's look for things that will help me. What things are going to help you? So also understand some things that I've read, and I am an NLP practitioner, and I'm taking NLP again, which is neuro-linguistic programming, for those of you that don't know, to look it up, how we do behavior. So I'm taking it a second time around, and it's just really solidifying everything that I learned the first time around, and it was a few years ago that I took it. But it's, learning the mindfulness kind of thing, and relearning, if you will, again, the more understanding for me, since I've been doing this for a while. Now it's like, okay, I see okay, I get it now. And it's like I'm paying more attention to what it is, and I'm able to use more of these techniques in my practice. Okay, so all that to say, when you're with a client and they're flooded, or they are trying to get past their emotional pain, I read somewhere, and it may have been from Joe Tabanella, I don't remember now, but I read somewhere that discomfort that we feel when we're trying to process, it's actually the discomfort of healing. It's like when you have a broken leg, and it heals, and it hurts until it's done healing. You got to let it hurt. We don't got to let it hurt. I mean, there's drugs for that, but there is an element of pain that's involved with, a broken limb or some other ailment that you have, that there's pain involved. There, a sore throat, you can only spray so much numbing stuff and ibuprofen, and it's going to work its way through. It's going to process its way through until it no longer hurts. Just like emotions that can be so ugly, and it's a constant practice. You can't just say, hey, I was positive today, I got it, so from now on I'm just going to be in my positive. From now on I'm just going to be there. Yeah, not so much. Okay, Okay, so the topic of my show today will be, it's all about anxiety, but there's a couple subcategories. And the first one is talking about jumping to conclusions. And it was kind of inspired by a friend of mine. His name is Paul, and he has had so much experience dating and finding out that those that are they keep jumping to conclusions. And he said something this week, and I've heard him say it over and over again, and it was like, that makes sense. You know what, I should do a show on that, or at least a segment about it, jumping to conclusions. So he's he is a man who likes women, so I'm going to use that vernacular, and you can use it whatever partnership you want, but and you can just, you know, switch it if you're of a different sexual orientation. This is how I grew up. So anyway, so he said that had been dating somebody, and this happens, he says, all the time. And what happens with him is he'll be told, well, that's what you meant. This is what you said. Well, that's not what I said. Well, that's what you meant. Well, how do you know what I meant? If that's not what I said, why are you telling me what I meant when this is what I said? See, women, that we jump to conclusions. And I am picking on women specifically because we do jump to conclusions. A man is mono-minded. They're just mono-minded. Women, we have the ability to think like a bowl of spaghetti. We have 75 thoughts going on in our heads at any given time. Just look, I remember growing up, I'd have my mother, my aunt, her sister, and then her sister, and my another aunt. So they'd be all sitting at the table. Now, these are ladies that are older, you know, at least 50, 60 years older than me. And I'm like probably in my teens or early 20s. And I'd sit there and try to join the ladies in their conversation. I promise you, they've got 17 conversations going. They're talking over each other. And I wasn't trained. I couldn't get a word in edgewise. They're all jumping to conclusions about this and that. Women jump to conclusions. We can be pretty effed up creatures if we choose to be. Now, here's my recommendation. Communicate. If you're, and this is a dating advice kind of thing. If you're dating somebody, first of all, if a man's interested in you, he's going to pursue you. And I've been listening to this all week long on different reels in my Facebook feed, which has been sound advice. People who jump to conclusions is because they're in anxiety already. So they have some issue, they have some baggage. That's a clue to you or to whomever. It's a clue. Okay, if that person is jumping to conclusions, they're having what we call anticipatory anxiety. They're assuming facts, not into evidence. You know, we will try and convict, become the judge and jury to somebody without even letting them have a defense. And then we get them all defensive because we're trying to, you know, women, we're trying to get our answer. We're trying to be right. Instead, we're making the other partner feel like they're in trouble all the time. Everybody has a voice, and it's nobody's business to tell me what I'm feeling. It's my business to tell you what I'm feeling. And it's none of my business to tell you what you're feeling. Oh, you believe this or you feel that. How can I assume that? I'm not in your head? And then I'm not going to let someone feel like they're in trouble because they don't, they didn't, there's not that communication. So having, let's see, had my first no call show today. So I'm excited to join this soon for the first time. Oh, thank you, Victoria. I appreciate that. Yay, I'm glad you're here. Okay, so if you have any questions, let me know. And I do this fly off the cuff. I mean, my notes are just like, you know, I'm just a scratchy piece of paper now. I'm going to be making some changes, but it's because of anxiety. We rely on an intuitive judgment call to other people. So when we are judging others, we jump to conclusions. That's just how we run. So when I learned, there's a relationship concept that was taught at HMI, the college that I graduated from. It's called Relationship Strategies, EMP, or the Emotional Physical Experience. If you want to know more about it, just ask me or contact HMI or go to hypnosis.edu/EP. Watch the video first before you take the questionnaire. The video teaches you how to take the questionnaire, and then learn about yourself and how the strategy works, because there are differences in a relationship. And when you have two people, I don't care who you are or what your orientation, you have two people and they're trying to fight for them being right, and at least not you not being right or whatever. You have to understand that just because you guys are different doesn't make the other person wrong. That's my whole point. You're not wrong for being different or for not being the same as me. So in my relationship I've had for about a year and a half now, and it's been great. I've applied these principles that I learned that John Kappas saw in his 50,000 case history or whatever, and I'm applying them, and it absolutely is working. You know, I can take a step back, and I'm a high Fizz. And if you've taken the EP questionnaire, you would understand what that is. So go on and you'll learn the terminology. But I am definitely an extrovert, and I have to sometimes back off and just kind of sink into my little introvert moment, my subdominant behavior, and it's okay. You know, my boyfriend, he's a very low physical, very low extrovert. So he's always in his introvert kind of thing. When we're alone together, we have a really good time because we can heighten each other up. I'm sorry, I think I have a peanut in my mouth. Excuse me. But we kind of pump each other up kind of thing. But I even told him, and I've told him repeatedly, so as his partner, I want to be the most hassle-free person in his life. We all have drama, and I want to be that friend or that pal or that whatever to whomever as hassle-free. I'm the person that I want people to know they can come to me and just, I can listen to learn. I don't have to listen to respond kind of thing. So not jumping to conclusions. And one of the things as a hypnotherapist, we will jump to conclusion because that's our intuition, right? A lot of this is based on intuition. So we're talking to a client, and I keep looking up here because that's where my couch is, where I have my client, and I'm just kind of role playing here in my head. And we'll jump to conclude, or we will in our head. So that prompts me to come up with a question instead of telling my client what they might be thinking or telling them how they might be feeling or whatever. You know, I'm going to form it into a question for them. I want them to come up with it. I may already know. They may be here for 5 minutes, and the more experience, the more you do, the more experience you get. You can already tell, okay, this is going to be, you know, a cluster F of fun with this particular client. You know, I had one come in yesterday. She was flooded, emotionally flooded. And I was going to work with EFT. That's where I was going to start. And we'd already done EFT in the past, or she already knew about it and how to do it. And I was trying to get an intensity level. And I said, okay, on a scale of 0 to 10, and then she'd sidetrack. She'd sidetrack in like 17 directions. You know what? Just get in the chair. Let's just get in the chair. Let's just do a little hypnosis. Let's get you calmed down. It was like, you know, an hour later. It's like she needed a vent, and I get that. And she did feel a lot better when she left. So she wasn't nearly as flooded. So, but it's our job to take the jumping to conclusion. Don't be judged. Don't judge especially our clients. And it's easy for us to do because there was a private moments with John Kappas in some of his videos, and he was talking to his hypnotherapist, and he had said that, and I only remember a portion of this video, it's been a while, but this is where I learned about how I'm biased on my own judgment. He said that we all have a judgment. He proved it. He goes, I had a client come in, and she said she wanted to have an affair with another man, and would he help her in a hypnotherapy kind of setting? All the hypnotherapists, you didn't see their faces, but you could hear them, you know, because that's not how we were. Oh no, what? You want to have an affair? Uh-oh. Oh my gosh. So I'm like, why is he doing this? I was just kind of like getting a little, what? But he said, look, she can go to somebody else. It may not be something I believe in, but this is where she's at. So let me see what I can do to help her. So some of the things that has to be considered, and he gave her a list of things to be considered. If you're going to have an affair with a married man, first, that also tells him that she's not interested in a full-on commitment because he's safe, he's married, right? Or maybe later on down the line, she might consider that, well, why doesn't he leave his wife? You know, whatever that is. I don't know how that turned out because So I just remember this beginning part of it, but I just remember him going, wow, you know what? It's not for me to judge. A client comes in, this is what they're asking me to help them with. Now he was a doctor of psychology. So he also threw in his, psychology as a psychologist. And we don't have that as hypnotherapists, unless of course you do have a psychology license. So, but we can't, it's like it taught me, you know what? I'm just going to meet my client where they're at. If they have a fingernail biting condition and they're raging alcoholic, then we're just going to work on fingernails. I'm not going to jump to conclusions with them, and I'm not going to bring it up unless they do. And I might do a little metaphoric questionnaire. Okay, so enough time has gone by. So some of you wanted to know what SODA means. It's an acronym. I just happened upon the anachronism when I wrote out what it might. Oh, that's SODA. Oh, cool. So over the last 6 months, I have had probably a half a dozen clients call me because of sudden onset driving anxiety. And it's like SODA, sudden onset driving anxiety. But here's some similarities. All of them have been men, and every one of them that's called me at the time they called me, this just started a few months ago. Really? So like the ones that may have called me in January, it started a few months prior. And it may be I might even be dating back to Thanksgiving time. I haven't looked in my files or anything like that. This week alone, I've had 2, and I have a third one coming in tomorrow. So it's something in the air. This is just what I've named it. I've labeled it sudden onset driving anxiety, because these are people that, they're out on the road, they have fun, they're go. And now they're just, they are anticipatory anxiety. They're in anxiety. They're focusing. Like the one guy told me, I just couldn't go to the hardware store. I had to get in my car, and that made him nervous because he didn't want to have a panic attack. So tomorrow when I work with this client, I'll be doing a lot of Q&A to see if we can do a little timeline therapy and a little bit, maybe some MER. I don't know where it's coming from. He said it started a few months ago. So I don't know what was going on a few months ago. So maybe we'll backtrack 6 months. Maybe we'll backtrack a year. Where is the timeline? Where is, the first incident? Perhaps we can get to the bottom of it. And at the very least, even if I'm clueless, before he leaves, the hypnotics will be inner peace, something on inner peace. And I have an actual script that I modify, if you will. It kind of gives me like a bullet point of words to use for people who are in anxiety. And some of the tricks that I use, my own tricks, if you will, it's not tricks, but it's just something that I learned. So whenever somebody comes in and whatever it is we're working on, I never mention it in hypnosis. So if they're coming in for anxiety, regardless of what the anxiety is, I am not going to mention the word anxiety. They already have. Their mind already knows it. And when that filter is open, why would I want to drop that word in again to have the subconscious mind grab a hold of it some more? No, we're not going to go there. So one of the things that I'm just now learning, it's called the Sedona method, or the Sedona technique. And I found it to be, I looked it up and I found it to be very, interesting to say the least. And it's choosing to let go and welcoming the feeling and not judging it, and just letting it go through, right? Letting go of all that inner limitation. And in the description I was reading, it talked about a pen. So, or an object. It may not be a pen, but it could be an object, any object. And it could be something, maybe you want to grab something that you can actually break. Maybe that'll make you feel good, right? But it's a pen. And it's like the arm rigidity that we use in our hypnotherapy practice, but put all of that energy that you are trying to, process in the pen. Instead of, and you do the arm, this is what you would do like in a self-hypnotic trance state. Put all that energy in that pen, and just all of it, just let it in the pen. Just make that pen the steel bar. Get all that energy into that pen. All of the limitations, all the limiting beliefs, everything that you're trying to process. The goal here is you're going to choose to let it go. And you can just let it go. Apparently there is some Amazing result using the Sedona technique or the Sedona method, choosing to let it go. And when you choose to let it go, it lets go. It's kind of cool. It just lets go. It's just done. It's a pretty cool opportunity there. So those are the two things that I wanted to, the Sedona thing was just so for free. But I want to make sure you understand if you're going to work with somebody in anxiety and you're going to be using timeline therapy or mental emotional release technique or EFT, make sure that you're qualified to do that. Or if you are somebody watching this that wants to seek out a hypnotherapist, please make sure your hypnotherapist is qualified in these modalities. It's very important. There's a lot of programs out there that are just weekend long. My NLP training is 80 hours over the course of 5 months. And I did it the first time and then I TA'd it and now I'm doing it a third time. So it's like twice that I paid for and then once as a TA. And I may even, but every 2 years, I think I might just make this a thing. Depends on, how long Joe's going to be teaching it. If you haven't taken it, highly recommend to take it. If you've taken it before, take it again. It's half off at HMI, at the American Hypnosis Association. Just send them an email and they'll give you an invoice for it. So, and always ask a lot of questions. Ask a lot of questions. And I think that's it, Baz. 20 minutes, 25 minutes worth of me talking nonstop. And if you don't have any questions, you may go back to your regularly scheduled programming. Yay! And next week's show, I have no idea what it's going to be about yet. I do want to make some changes into my 1 hour thing. I've been doing this almost a year now. And some follow some don't, whatever. I don't care. I'm just putting it out to the universe every single week and just trying to get it out there. And when I had COVID, I didn't post for a couple weeks because I was pretty sick, but that was back in February. But you can always find past shows on Central Valley Hypnotherapy YouTube channel. And I am ILAH Brock. I've been your host. Thank you all for watching. And all of you that are watching after the fact, just send me an email, which is my name there in the bottom corner of this. You'll see ILAH B at centralvalleyhypnotherapy.com. You can go to my website, centralvalleyhypnotherapy.com. I'm happy to talk, converse, whatever questions you have. And if you're a hypnotherapist, welcome to ask me any questions you have. And I do a little coaching on the side. So take care, everybody. And thank you all for being here. And until next week, back live at 5, and I'll have something interesting to discuss. Maybe I'll have more of this soda concept as I continue to research it and figure out what's going on. I mean, this is kind of weird and strange that it's just so, it's like rampant. And I don't know if it has anything, the concept, one of the questions was, have they been vaccinated? It's like I know some have, I haven't asked. I don't ask that question when people come into my office. So when I don't ask if they've had COVID, and I don't know if I even have the right to ask, because I don't want anyone asking me either. So I just let it go. All right, everybody, take care. And I look forward to you seeing me next week, or me seeing you, or your lovely names. And take care. Bye, guys. And I will see you again. Have an amazing weekend. And I hope you had a wonderful 4th last week.